Well, we might now look at the presentation area. So let's do that, and I'll zoom extents so that you can see the whole sheet. If I right click over the title of the layout and go to Layouts Manager, I can see that we're looking at an A3 sheet. So it's important to keep in mind the sheet size that you're working with. I'm a little pedantic, but I like my frames that are going to hold my images. I don't have access to the actual images here, but I like things to line up so that the frames at the top through here all line up. The gap between the frames is the same both horizontally and vertically. I've done that by right clicking and going to drafting settings, and I set my snap and grid up. I might, for the sake of argument, set a 2mm grid and a bold step every 5, and now as we zoom in you should be able to see the bold step and 5 steps between. So everything lines up, well, not everything, but these frames through here I've lined up with appropriate gaps, but you can see that the frames down through this area could do with a little fine tuning. By having a snap on in your layout space, you can move frames around. Just to illustrate, if I go draw a rectangle with 2 points, and you see I can snap to one point and come down here to another. If I select that rectangle, you can see it's 40 by 50 and its center is 155 by 100 and so on. Everything's whole numbers because gCADPlus is jumping to the grid. So do be aware of, I think, the need for precision in your layout on layout sheets. That's no pun intended, but laying out frames on layout sheets I think is terribly important. You can even do that with the frame that holds the floating viewport view, and you'll notice there that the viewport is twisted, and we dealt with that in an earlier movie. If we come here, the viewport there is straight, whereas in this instance it's not. So what I would do there is go back into this zone. You can see here the user has twisted the frame. What I much prefer to do, which I have done here, is to rotate the whole view. So what I'm going to do is go to the presentation sheet. I'll deactivate the viewport. I'm going to select that floating viewport. I'm going to delete it now, erase it. Remember that I've got my, there's some extra text here that sits over the top of the frame. I'm not happy about that. I'm going to move that text now, and I'm going to move that off. It may well be a plant name, so I'll move it by putting ortho on. I'll move it off, square off to the left in case I need to move it back again. But now I can right click here, go to add a viewport, and come in maybe a couple of millimeters from the edge and come up like so, up there, and then dive into that viewport, bring it down so that it fits the zone we are interested in, like so. Move it again. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just changing my view. I'm not twisting the viewport as was done before, and now I'll display that on the layout and then deactivate it. And there we have it. If I make the color of that border 255 pure white on a white paper background, then things look fine. Now, I'm not in a position, not my design, I'm not in a position to move that text back over images in there, but we certainly have a much nicer looking layout there. I'd probably be inclined to try and get a larger magnification there. We just see what we've got. We've got a scale of 76, which is not going to work for us. It would be nice to see whether we can get to a scale of 50. Probably will be a little bit difficult for us, but we'll just do that, and we're going to need to make the viewport larger, like so. Now I think I'll probably need to select all the entities that make up the, whoops, I'll undo that, all the entities that make up the title box, or legend if you like. I need a bit more text. I've still got snap on, that's making selection a little more difficult. So now I can set up a crossing window and then move ortho is on, so I can move that off. And what I'm trying to do here, and I may need to further rearrange things, I've set a view scale of 50. Haven't quite got everything that I need, so I'd move that up to there, and I would take this viewport here and move it up and off the page so that I can see how I go. Now if I double, that's about my maximum size, we'll worry about the text later, for that floating viewport. I'll double click in there, and lo and behold, we've managed to get the whole of the rear garden at a scale of 1 to 50. So we can say display that on the layout and then deactivate it. Now I'm sure you can play around with the arrangement of images on the page, but I think we'll be able to get away with a scale of 1 to 50 for that part of the garden with some of these images there. Things are squared off. We need to add some text, but progress is being made.